Do you think you'll ever be queen?
What if everything we thought we knew about Princess Diana's final resting place was only part of the story? For nearly 3 decades, her grave was sealed, untouched, protected from the world, until now. Princess Diana was buried on September 6, 1997. Her funeral was watched by over 2 billion people, marking one of the largest public displays of grief in modern history. The world stood still that day. She was laid to rest on a small island in the middle of a lake at Althorp, her family's estate. It was quiet, private, and surrounded by water, a peaceful resting place for the people's princess. For 27 years, her grave remained undisturbed. Only close family could reach the island by boat. No public access, no cameras, no headlines. It was meant to stay that way forever. But something changed.
No, I don't. No.
Why do you think that?
I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts, in people's hearts. But I don't see myself being queen of this country. I don't think many people would want me to be queen. Actually, when I say many people, I mean the establishment that I'm married into. Because they've decided that I'm a non-starter.
Why do you think they've decided that?
Because I do things differently. Because I don't go by a rule book. Because I lead from the heart, not the head. And albeit that's got me into trouble in my work, I understand that. But someone's got to go out there and love people and show it.
I'm about to share information the Spencer family wanted kept private. This was never meant to go public, but some secrets refused to stay buried. They opened Princess Diana's tomb. The official explanation pointed to structural and legal concerns that had to be handled carefully. The burial site sits on an island in a decorative lake, and over time, water can create serious problems for underground chambers. There were concerns about possible leaks, the stability of the structure, and long-term preservation. These weren't rumors, they were real issues that demanded attention. Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, had an engineering survey done a few years ago. According to reports, he wanted to make sure the site remained secure and protected. A source close to the situation said it was about preservation and responsibility. But what they discovered inside stunned everyone present. It wasn't because something was damaged. It wasn't a dark conspiracy. It wasn't anything dramatic in that way. It was something far more personal. It was what Diana left behind. Buried with her were items no one publicly knew about, private belongings, messages, carefully chosen objects that were never mentioned before. These were not random keepsakes, they were intentional, almost like she knew one day the tomb might be opened again. Those present described it as emotional and overwhelming. These were messages meant to be found only if the grave was ever reopened, a final communication. And what those items revealed is now sending quiet shockwaves through royal circles around the world. I have to be careful here. The Spencer family has requested privacy and did not authorize anyone to share details publicly, but people who were there have spoken, information has leaked, and the story growing behind closed doors is too significant to ignore. Some believe Diana sensed that her life might be cut short. Maybe she didn't know when or how, but she prepared in ways we are only now starting to understand. The way certain items were arranged, the symbolism behind them, it raises serious questions.
Why was the tomb opened after 27 years? Why now after all this time? Officially, it was about structural safety. Unofficially, it feels bigger than that. For nearly 3 decades, her grave remained sealed on that small island at Althorp, reachable only by boat. Family members visited quietly to pay their respects, but they never disturbed her resting place. Until now. So what exactly did they find inside? What did Diana leave behind? And why are these discoveries causing tension and whispers within royal circles today? This is a story that was never meant to be shared, but it's out now, and people are talking. The inspection results were serious enough that action had to be taken. It wasn't an emergency situation, but it wasn't something they could ignore either. Diana's burial site is unlike most royal graves. Traditionally, members of the royal family and aristocracy are buried in churches or historic cemeteries. Her grave, placed on a secluded island in a lake at Althorp, was powerful and symbolic, but also highly unusual. That choice, while beautiful, raised long-term concerns. Water surrounds the site completely. Over decades, even small environmental shifts can affect underground structures. After 27 years, experts believed it was time to check the integrity of the burial chamber, and that 27-year mark may not be random. In the UK, laws around private burials and land use can be complex. There are regulations about long-term maintenance, land stability, and preservation standards. While officials have not publicly confirmed every detail, legal timing may have played a role in the decision to move forward. It wasn't just emotional, it may have been procedural too. There was also a deeply personal reason. Sources say Prince William and Prince Harry wanted reassurance about their mother's resting place. They wanted to know she was at peace, that her grave was secure, that time and nature had not disturbed what was meant to last forever. For all these reasons, the final decision was made. The tomb would be opened. A small, carefully selected team was assembled to handle the operation. Security was extremely tight. The press was not informed in advance. On a quiet day, away from cameras and headlines, Diana's tomb was opened for the first time since 1997. This was not rushed. Every step was planned with precision. Preservation experts, engineers, and professional funeral specialists were brought in. The team arrived at Althorp before sunrise. The estate was closed to visitors, and most staff were kept away from the area. Only a handful of trusted individuals knew what was about to happen, and they were required to remain silent. Earl Spencer was present. Reports suggest Prince William was there as well, although some sources claim he arrived later in the process. Prince Harry's physical presence remains unclear, but insiders say he was fully informed and may have joined remotely from California.
There was reportedly a letter to William, a letter to Harry, a letter to her brother Charles, and possibly others addressed to key figures from different chapters of her life. The full list of names has not been made public. The existence of these letters raises serious questions. It suggests Diana may have felt that her time was limited. While no one can say exactly what she believed, she clearly took steps to preserve messages for the people she loved most. She placed them somewhere she knew would one day be opened, even if that day came decades later. But the letters were not the only discovery. Sources say there were also documents stored inside the chamber. These were papers Diana wanted preserved, but could not keep openly during her lifetime. Details remain limited, but insiders claim they relate to her experiences within the royal family. They reportedly include personal records, observations, and accounts of moments she witnessed firsthand. There were also deeply personal items, objects connected to private memories and relationships the public never knew about. Small things with large meaning, items that tied directly to certain individuals, possibly the same people who received letters. And then there was one more object. Sources close to the situation are extremely cautious about describing it, but those who saw it were reportedly stunned. Even people who believed they understood Diana's private world were caught off guard. This final item added another layer to the story, one that no one was prepared for. What became clear that day is this: the contents of Diana's burial chamber were not simply the final belongings of a princess. They formed a carefully prepared time capsule, a message to the future. It appears that in the final months of her life, Diana made deliberate choices. She organized certain items, she sealed letters, she preserved documents, all of it placed where she knew it would remain untouched until the right moment. The letters Diana left behind are now at the center of this entire discovery, and what they contain could reshape how her final chapter is understood. These were not casual notes written in a rush. They were serious, carefully thought out messages. This was Diana's final voice, her last words to the people she loved most. The letter to William carried the weight of the crown. She wrote about his future as king and the responsibility that would sit on his shoulders one day. Diana spoke about the kind of monarch she hoped he would become: strong, compassionate, and connected to real people. She warned him about certain mistakes, not with anger, but with honesty. She reflected on her own past, including her father and her marriage, and how those experiences shaped her life. There was no bitterness in her tone, according to sources. Instead, there was a quiet sadness, a kind of acceptance. She wanted William to understand where she came from, but not feel trapped by it. Love was a major theme in her message. Real love, genuine connection. She reportedly urged him not to repeat patterns that caused her pain. Sources say she gave specific advice about choosing a partner, to look for authenticity, loyalty, and strength. She wrote about building a marriage that could survive the pressure of royal life, instead of just appearing perfect on the outside. Her letter to Harry was different. It was more emotional. Diana knew his heart was softer. She understood he would struggle deeply with her loss, and she spoke directly to that. According to insiders, she encouraged Harry to stay true to himself no matter what. She warned him not to let royal tradition crush his spirit or silence his voice. She told him to find his own path,
even if that path looked different from what others expected. She reminded him of who he was before titles and public roles, before cameras and headlines. She wanted him to stay connected to everyday people, to use his position for meaningful impact, not just public appearances. The message was clear: purpose over image. Many now wonder whether her words shaped some of Harry's later decisions. It's impossible to say for sure, but the similarities are hard to ignore. The letter to Earl Spencer focused on family and legacy. Diana reportedly made specific requests about how she wanted to be remembered. She spoke about protecting her name and ensuring her story would not be rewritten by others. She trusted her brother to guard that responsibility. As for the remaining letters, their recipients have not been revealed. Their contents remain sealed in privacy. But their existence alone raises questions about Diana's private world. There were relationships, conversations, and emotions the public never fully saw. Only she and those chosen individuals know what was written inside. And then there are the documents. Beyond the personal letters, Diana preserved records that could carry serious weight. These were not emotional goodbye notes. These were files, written accounts, materials she deliberately kept. The exact details have not been released because the family has chosen to keep them private. However, sources claim they relate directly to her experiences within the royal family and concerns she had during that time. Some documents reportedly focus on her marriage, not just feelings, but practical matters, financial arrangements, agreements that were made, promises that may not have been kept. These were structured records, not just personal reflections. If confirmed, these papers could offer a clearer look into parts of her life that were never fully explained. And that possibility alone is enough to make people uneasy. Diana didn't just rely on memory. She kept notes. She wrote down what she was told and what she personally observed inside palace walls. She paid attention to details, conversations, decisions, promises, and she kept records.
Some of the documents reportedly outlined decisions made within the palace that she strongly disagreed with. Diana described behaviors she found troubling and situations that made her uncomfortable. Even though she was part of the royal family, she often felt like an outsider. She saw things differently from those who had grown up inside that system. There are also claims that certain files reference specific incidents that were publicly presented one way at the time, but according to her notes, may have unfolded very differently behind closed doors. If accurate, her writings could offer an alternative perspective that challenges official accounts. Another sensitive area involves her safety concerns. Diana reportedly documented moments that made her uneasy. She wrote about conversations that felt tense or alarming. She made private notes when something didn't sit right with her. Her well-known letter mentioning fears about a possible car accident has been discussed for years, but insiders suggest there may be additional notes that give more context to what she was thinking during that period of her life. Now, the family faces a serious decision. What should happen to these documents? One option is to seal them again and return them to the tomb. Another is to place them in the Spencer family archives at Althorp. There is also the possibility of sharing selected materials with historians in the future, or keeping everything completely private. And this is where opinions reportedly differ. Sources suggest that William leans toward privacy. He believes his mother's personal writings should be protected and not turned into public debate. Harry, on the other hand, is said to favor greater transparency. He has often spoken about openness and confronting difficult truths. This difference reflects their broader views on the monarchy and on how Diana's legacy should be handled. Earl Spencer holds significant influence in this matter. As head of the Spencer family and guardian of Althorp, where Diana is buried, his voice carries weight. He has not publicly commented on the newly discovered materials. However, insiders suggest he is cautious, very cautious. He does not want his sister's memory pulled back into intense public scrutiny unless absolutely necessary. When news of the discoveries reached the palace, the response was immediate. This was not just a historical curiosity. It had real implications for people who are still alive today. King Charles was reportedly informed within hours of the tomb being opened and the items discovered. His reaction, according to sources, was complex. These materials belonged to his former wife, the mother of her children. At the same time, any new revelations could reopen old wounds and spark renewed public debate. This situation is delicate. It touches on family, legacy, history, and personal truth, all at once. And whatever decision is made next could shape how Princess Diana's story is understood for generations to come. There is still real emotional weight between Diana and Charles, no matter how complicated their relationship became. They shared history. They shared children. That cannot be erased. But Charles also knows what happened during their marriage. He knows the arguments, the struggles, and the moments that shaped their story. If Diana's documents confirm things she previously hinted at, they could place his already complex legacy under fresh scrutiny, and that is not a small matter for a reigning king. Camilla's reported reaction was more direct: concern. Diana's feelings about Camilla were well known during her lifetime. If these documents include detailed accounts, specific accusations, or private reflections that challenge past public narratives, it could trigger renewed public debate. No one inside the palace wants to see old wounds reopened on a global stage. Sources claim the palace has quietly reached out to Earl Spencer, asking for clarity about what exactly was discovered. They want to understand the scope of the material, they want to be prepared, and if necessary, they may hope to have some level of involvement in how it is handled. So far, those requests have reportedly been declined. The materials were found at a Spencer family burial site. They legally belong to Diana's blood relatives. The royal institution has no direct claim over them. Whatever she documented is considered private family property, not palace property. That reality has created tension. The palace is used to managing information carefully. For decades, Diana's legacy has been shaped through controlled releases, official statements, and carefully presented archives. This unexpected discovery shifts that balance. William finds himself in a familiar position, in the middle. He is Diana's son, a Spencer by blood, but he is also the future king. His responsibility to the institution and his loyalty to his mother's memory could pull him in different directions: protect her truth or protect the stability of the monarchy. That is not an easy line to walk. In the months ahead, discussions between the Spencer family and palace officials are expected to continue. This is not something that will be decided overnight. The question of what happens to Diana's letters and documents could take years to resolve. And now we arrive at the bigger picture. 27 years after her death, Princess Diana's voice is once again part of the conversation. Letters, private notes, documents she chose to preserve. It suggests she was thinking about her legacy long before her life ended. Diana understood the power of communication. The world saw that in her interviews and public speeches. She knew how to connect. She knew how to speak directly to people's hearts. If she carefully placed these materials in her burial chamber, it may show that she wanted her voice to reach the future, even if it took decades. At the same time, there is a powerful argument for privacy. Some believe these writings were meant only for her sons and close family, that they should be read quietly without headlines or public judgment. Others argue that Diana always stood for openness and honesty, and that her final messages may have been intended to complete her story. Both perspectives carry weight. Both deserve consideration. What is clear is this: Diana's story is far from forgotten. It continues to shape her sons. It continues to influence discussions about the monarchy, and it continues to capture global attention. Opening her tomb was not about spectacle. It began as a structural inspection, but it uncovered something far deeper, a preserved chapter of her voice. Now the world watches and waits. Should her letters and documents remain sealed within family archives, or should they one day be shared as part of history? The decision will define not just how Diana is remembered, but how future generations understand one of the most talked about figures of the modern royal era. Share your thoughts below and subscribe to stay updated as this story continues to unfold.
No, I don't. No.
Why do you think that?
I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts, in people's hearts.